Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem video. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 97 where I played d4 and we got into some kind of irregular opening, starting with the move d6. Here, let's take a look at the opening book. So d4, d6 is the fourth most popular choice here. I really had no idea what to play after d6, so we'll take a look at what the most popular moves are there. But knight f6 and d5 are your usual moves here, and e6 is setting up some kind of yeah, I don't know what that is about either. E6, I guess that's one of those moves where you could go in different directions depending on what white plays. For example, if c4, e6, knight f6 would be threatening the Nimzo Indian, or if e4, then e6, and then d5 would be French defense. But d6, I really don't know what to make of this. So looks like e4 is the most popular move, in which case black could play e5 and go into a Philidor defense. So maybe this is a roundabout way of getting into the Philidor defense. And it looks like that's the most popular choice, just e4 here. And knight f3, another idea. Just clamping down on this e5 move here before committing to e4. And then c4, the move I played, just trying to play a normal queen's pawn opening, which knight f6, yeah, would be an interesting choice here, or e5 are the top moves in this position. And then here the top response is knight f3, I guess not fearing the pawn push e4. And knight c3 is an idea. If pawn takes, queen takes, knight there gains a tempo on the queen. I didn't really like that idea. And knight takes pawn push, and the knight has to find another move. I didn't like that either, but maybe that's nothing to be feared. I guess the knight can always go to g5 and attack that pawn. Anyway, but I played it safe with the move e3, just shoring up the center. And the engine doesn't think it's a particularly awful move, but maybe there were more precise moves. And we're pretty much out of the book there, so we're just going to look at this from the engine point of view. There was no great tactics, but there was some interesting strategy going on here. So we're maybe both in an unusual position, although maybe my opponent has seen this before, but certainly a new one for me. So I just follow the normal rules of developing your pieces, watching out for threats like a pin threatening to win the knight there. So you always unpin. And trying to build a big center when you get the chance. And it likes white's play so far. What it didn't approve of is this idea here. g3, after a while it thinks it's okay. But then bishop f1. So I rerouted the bishop here. I wanted g3 to keep the knight out of the f4 square. And then I needed the bishop here to defend the h-pawn. So that's my strategy. But the engine doesn't really approve. If we back up, it thinks I should follow up with h4. Didn't really think about that, but you know, it makes sense. Black has developed his knights over here to unusual squares, and you know, if I can push my pawn ahead and maybe make them a bit uncomfortable there, I might get an advantage. h4, bishop g4, and castles. Okay, but I played this way: bishop f1, and he takes, and I take, and now he's got a slight advantage. And rook c8 it wasn't too impressed with, but I went ahead and castled, and he could continue with b5 and maintain his slight edge here. But what he played was rook takes c3. And now if this had been a terrible sack, you might see this change to a positive number like +1 or 1.5, which is the normal value of an exchange. But you see, he gets compensation right away. It's only a 0.22. So this was a reasonable exchange sack. He gets the pawn for it right away, so he's got a pawn and a knight for the rook. And he's got active pieces here. And I don't always find the best moves here. I went queen b3, and now it's totally equal. So a good exchange sack. And we continue on, trying to advance our position. And it didn't really like my move. Did not like my move king h2. It thinks I should push ahead with h4 once again. Interesting. Okay, did not really think about h4 here. And also it thought, and I thought during the game f4 maybe was more of a threat than this move. He played e4. But still about an even game. Black slightly better. All the way up until, yeah, it didn't like this knight exchange. It thinks I should just retreat my knight back to b3. And that's more prudent. This gives up a pawn for not much. I just am trying to get some open files for my rooks. When you're down the exchange, the advantage, I mean when you're up the exchange, the advantage you have is your rook over a minor piece. But your rook is not active until some lines open for it. So I was sacking a pawn there, basically open lines for the rook. Not entirely a sound sacrifice. So black has now got a significant edge here. And it lasts until he plays this move, bishop d3. And this sets him on the kind of the downward slope. Actually, even earlier, starting with the move bishop c4, which is probably part of the same plan. Thinks he should just go, black should play e3. Yeah, just charge ahead with these pawns. Keep the bishops, keep the rook, and push these pawns, which are your advantage here, and try and get something going against my king. So that's the way black should be playing this. Let's go forward. Instead, he moved his bishop around. And after this move, now I can play bishop f1. And you see the computer immediately spots that as a good idea for white. I just need to get rid of one of these bishops so that, and the way he played it, I also got a pawn. He could have, he didn't have to lose a pawn there. He could have taken, let's back up. It's his move. Instead of rook to d8, he could have played f4. Okay, I guess that loses a pawn too, or queen c5. Queen c5 is a very interesting try because that hits this pawn here on pawn on f2, which is defended by the rook, but that means that it's a little awkward for me to take the pawn here. Okay, so queen c5 would have been a good move. So when he just defended the bishop and let me trade it off and win a pawn, now the advantage is on my side. I'm up the exchange, and all he's got for it is a pawn. And it's not enough anymore. Now I miss queen e6, which would have been a good move, hitting the bishop and hitting that pawn and just kind of invading there. But queen d1 is okay, keeps the advantage for me. And eventually I find the good moves here. You can see white's advantage is slowly increasing. And I've forced some exchanges here. Oh, let's back up. There was another good move here I missed. Yeah, it says queen f3 check would have put an end to the game quicker. But I had planned to take this pawn and then win this pawn over here, which is still a winning plan. Force an exchange and then go into this endgame, which is winning for white, because I put my pawns on the light-colored squares where his bishop can't touch them, and then I just use the advantage of the bishop, the rook over the bishop. It just it's a better piece. It controls more squares, and eventually the way you win these games is you either win a pawn with your greater mobility, and then you sack the exchange back, and then grab another pawn, and you'll see that happening here in a little bit. I probably could have taken the bishop even there. Let's back up. Yeah, rook takes c5 would have been winning. Because I'm closer to this pawn and he has to wrap up this pawn. So I take, he takes back, and I just move my king over and win that way. So there's a little bit of maneuvering here. And eventually I realize, yes, I can just take the bishop. He's got to worry about this pawn, so he can't ever come back and defend these pawns. And so one of these guys is going to queen. So easy win from there, and that's how you win with a rook against a bishop in endgame. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again later. Bye.